Here we go. Good morning and welcome to Worldwide Wisdom. Today we're going to talk about a tale of two souls because the Torah teaches us a tale which seems so unnecessary, but there is nothing unnecessary in Torah. Every detail in Torah is precise, it's specific, it serves as a spiritual anchor and guide and GPS for each and every one of us. Remember, the word Torah doesn't mean history book. There's not even a word for history in Hebrew. The word Torah means a guide, a life guide, an eternal guide, guiding us through the vicissitudes, the challenges, the obstacles of life with the tools that we need to overcome, to prevail, and to survive. The Torah portion this week begins with a story which seems to have no relevance with anything at all. Let's take a look at the story on page 155. Page 155 in the blue Chumash, the Khat Chumash. Let's take a look. The following, I'm just going to read the bold-faced original extra translation without the commentary. Well, I'll do a little commentary. The following, Jacob and Esau are the descendants of Isaac, son of Abraham, although Abraham was the father of Isaac. Isaac was 40 years old when he married Rebekah in the year 2088. How many years ago was that?
How old was Rebekah?
Well, don't distract. How many years ago was this? 5786. 5786 minus 2088. 3,698 years ago is when the story took place. It's not that long ago.
3,700 years.
Almost 3,700. 3698. Isaac was 40 years old when he married Rebekah. Although Rebekah was the daughter of the wicked Bethuel, the Aramean of Padan Aram, the sister of the wicked Lavan, the Aramean, Isaac pleaded before God, while his wife did the opposite, did the same in the opposite side of the room, for she was barren. God responded to Isaac's plea. His wife Rebekah conceived. Now the children struggled within her. So this is now twins. They're having twins. The children struggled within her. Not knowing she was carrying twins, she said, if the pain of pregnancy is so great, then why did I pray for it? So she went to the academy of Shem and Aver. These were the sons of Noah, to inquire of God as to what exactly was causing her so much discomfort. Now, the commentaries tell us that what the problem was, that she didn't just have a turbulent pregnancy. She actually had a confusing pregnancy because this child of hers wanted to come out every time she passed the house of monotheism. And the child also wanted to come out every time she passed the house of polytheism. So, what? She was like, this is a confused child. She was very, very worried. The child wanted to run out in a house of Hashem, and he wanted to run out in a house of idolatry. So she realized she had a confused child. She was relieved to hear when God told Shem to say to her that the progenitors of two nations are in your womb. Oh. Both nations will be powerful, and in the future their two leaders will be world-renowned for their wealth. Nonetheless, these two powers will diverge the moment they emerge from you within you. The younger will be predisposed towards righteousness, and the elder toward wickedness. Furthermore, although they will both be powerful, they will never wield equal power simultaneously. When one rises, the other will fall, and vice versa. Thus, the upper hand will pass from one power to the other and back again. Nonetheless, even when the elder has the upper hand, the elder and his descendants will always serve the younger and his descendants. So the elder is Esau, the non-Jews. The younger is Jacob, the Jews. And the younger will be...
Fewer number? Does it say fewer number?
No, it doesn't say that here. But the upper hand will pass from one power to the other. Nevertheless, the elder will serve the younger. Her pregnancy reached full term. So she was relieved. She was like, okay, I got two different kids. That's fine. But as long as there's not one confused kid. Her pregnancy, because you know what the problem is? The problem is when you don't know where you're going. The problem is when you're sitting on the fence. You know people like this? That they refuse to take a stand. They're indecisive. That's the worst.
Right.
But when you have the courage to take a stand, okay, you took a stand. Maybe I don't agree with your stand, but at least you have the courage to take a position.
They say a wrong decision is better than no decision.
Exactly.
The safest place is the middle of the road.
Right, exactly. Her pregnancy reached full term because one of the twins in her womb was predisposed to wickedness. Rebekah therefore did not possess enough merit to warrant that God shorten her uncomfortable pregnancy. Okay, let's just finish it up. 157. The first one emerged ruddy, a portent that he would be a shedder of blood and full of hair, all over like a wooden cloak that is covered with hair. So everyone present at his birth called him Esav, which means completed. Esau. Esau means completed, finished. He was like all matured. His brother then emerged with his hand grasping the heel, a portent that the nation that would descend from him would rise to power on the heels of the nation that would descend from Esau. Jews always had this insecurity complex, unsure about exactly who they are, grappling at the heel of their older brothers, seeking validation from the most dangerous of places like Zoran Mamdani. Maybe he will love us, and therefore we should support him. Right? Exactly. Seeking for validation from the United Nations, asking permission from the world's powers to vanquish our enemies, instead of doing what Putin would do, which is just do it. Don't ask permission.
Validation from your parents.
Exactly. Instead of seeking validation from God, he's clutching the heel of his older brother of Esau. This is nothing new, folks. He was also grasping Esau's heel because since he was conceived first, he wanted to emerge first and receive the birthright. God named the second son Jacob by inspiring Isaac to give him a name, recalling him how he was grasping Esau's heel. The very name Jacob means you're a follower. Jacob means you're a loser. You don't, forgive me for being so blunt. It means that you don't have the courage of your convictions. Later in life, remember, Jacob rises to become Yisrael. Yisrael means for you have struggled with angels and with men and you have prevailed. To be a Jew is to transition from being a loser to a winner, from being a second-born to being the firstborn, from seeking the validation of those who seek to hurt you and rising to the point that you say, I don't need you, from beginning codependent and ending up independent or interdependent. That's what it means to be a Jew. So guys, don't get depressed when you see Jews losing the plot. That's all part of the code here, right? Isaac was in his 60th year when Rebekah gave birth to them. That was the story, folks. But let me dive into the story. Yeah.
What's the significance of Jacob was born circumcised?
Oh, I missed that part. Jacob was born circumcised. Good question. It means that he was holy from the womb. That's what it means.
I have a great nephew who was just born and was born circumcised.
Really?
Really?
I've never heard of anybody being born
His name is
circumcised.
Jack, but it's a very, I was told it's extremely rare.
Extremely rare. I've never heard of such a thing. Born circumcised.
Yeah.
Does he still need a breast? He probably still needs a breast. Like a prick.
Yeah, maybe.
Just to draw blood.
He might not have a foreskin.
So
Fantastic.
it means there's some holiness.
Absolutely. And we'll dive into that in just a moment after Mordechai's question.
Yes, I was confused with, and I understand in the Torah it says that Rebecca was 3 when she married. Was it because the age difference and timeline back then than it is now?
What's that?
I think that life expectancies were very different, and therefore we can draw an inference from what is considered acceptable behavior today to what was acceptable behavior 3,698 years ago. Right? If we want, we can get stuck on a nuance. How about the fact that he had 4 wives? Does that bother you?
No, that's good. No.
You like that part? Ask your wife if she likes that part, right?
I like that.
So you understand there were cultural differences which are not necessarily going to be able to be things that we can relate to today. It's like, today the cancel culture where they tear down statues. I don't know if there's any person in history that would have been worthy of today's cultural standards because there's such a moral society today. Today we only stand up for Hamas, only the highest ethical echelons like Hamas murderers and October 7th murderers. People like Thomas Jefferson and George Washington are no longer deemed worthy. So anyways, I digress. Let's go back to what I'm talking about. Fine.
Teddy Roosevelt, statue in front of the.
Folks, I want to keep focused. I really don't want to get distracted with that. So the question that the Rebbe asks is like this. The Rebbe points out a question, and he says, look, these 2 boys were grappling in the womb. Why were they grappling in the womb? As I mentioned, one was drawn to holiness, and the other one was drawn to the opposite of holiness, right? Mm-hmm. The question is asked. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Sages say that they were fighting over the inheritance of the 2 worlds. That's what our sages say. They were fighting with each other over the inheritance of the 2 worlds, of this world and the next world. So the Rebbe asks a question on this Talmudic statement. The Rebbe asks, what does it mean that they were fighting over the inheritance of the world? This medrash comes from Yalkut Shimoni. It comes from Seder Eliyahu Zuta, that they were fighting over the inheritance of the world. Why would they be fighting over the two worlds? Jacob would want which world?
This world.
Jacob would want the next world, Olam Haba, and Esau would want which world? This world. This one wants the mundane world. This one wants the spiritual world. Even Stephen, no problem. Easy divide. Good fences make good neighbors. These guys should have been best buds. There's no overlap. There's no reason for these guys to be arguing over both worlds. Why would Esau want the world to come? Why does he need a spiritual world? It's of no interest. And why would Jacob want to be in this physical world? Send me to heaven. The Rebbe points out a little deeper, and he says, how is it even possible that Isaac, the first Jew born as a Jew, first one to be brised at 8 days old, that Isaac has a son? Now he says son Jacob, fine, that's good genes. But he has a son Esau who's evil from the womb? How does this even happen? Where did the spiritual DNA come from that Isaac, the righteous patriarch Isaac, can have a son who is predisposed towards evil, that in the womb he's rushing towards the house of idolatry? This that Esau later in life becomes corrupt, becomes evil, fine. That's his own choices. But to have a predisposition from the womb genetically to be so disposed makes no sense. From here, the Rebbe concludes a fascinating conclusion. The Rebbe says that it must be that both Jacob and Esau were good in the womb. Can't be that our righteous patriarch Isaac had a gene, a bad apple gene. It's got to be that both of them were actually good, and they were both different kinds of good. What?
What happened in the womb? Why did it change?
Why did it change?
Why was he one hairy, one not?
Hang on. So we'll get to that in a second. So Larry's asking an interesting question. So Larry's saying it takes two to tango. There was two parents here. Isaac had very holy genes, but Rebecca didn't exactly have the holiest of genes. She was called a rose amongst the thorns. I don't know the answer to that question.
Well, it says in here that she was a daughter of wicked.
I know, it's very explicit. So I'm saying I don't know the answer to your question. The Rebbe asked this question. I don't know the answer to that, to your question. In other words, I would think that there are two kids, two parents, one looks like mom, one looks like dad. Right? I would think, one has mom's genes, one has dad's genes. I don't know. So this is all part of Torah study. Anyways, let's keep on going. So the Rebbe points out that the Rambam Maimonides has a fascinating concept that he brings up in his Shemona Prakim in his 8 chapters, where he mentions that there are two general modalities when it comes to serving God. There is the perfect chassid, perfectly righteous, and then there is the one who curbs his appetite. Right. So there's the Tzadik who is perfect. The guy doesn't struggle with nothing. That's a double negative. Doesn't struggle with nothing. He doesn't struggle with anything, right? He doesn't struggle with anything. He doesn't even have a struggle. That's the Tzadik. We've learned about this guy in Tanya. This guy in Tanya is the one who is, the perfectly righteous guy. This is the saint. And then you got the Beinoni. The Beinoni is the guy who's overwhelmed with all sorts of ungodly desires. He can't even talk about them because they're embarrassing. But he can't control, he can control them. He can't control the thoughts of them, the desires of them. But he's able to just about curb their fulfillment. So he doesn't manifest them in TSA, thought, speech, and action. But he does have a raging battle within him. And these are the two kinds of Jews of serving God that the Rambam Maimonides describes. The first one desires only the good, and everything he does is only about sanctification. It's all about the light. The latter is the one who's desiring evil, who's grappling with the darkness, and he's constantly on guard, on vigil, in order to protect himself from failing. And these are the two souls of Jacob and Esau as they were born, as they were conceived in the womb of Rebekah, the saintly womb of Rebekah and Isaac. The nature of Yaakov was to be, as the Torah tells us soon, an innocent man, a dweller of tents. He was the perfectly righteous. But the nature of Esau was to be a man who was skilled in hunting. He was the one who would curb his appetite, because the ultimate reason why Esau was drawn to idolatry, it's not because he wanted to fail with idolatry, but because he wanted to sanctify it. The Beinoni, that's the Beinoni. He's struggling inside. It's not that he wanted to defy God. It's that he wanted to restrain his desire. So he had the desire, but he was restraining it. In other words, these are the Beinoni. Esau is the Beinoni. I'm sorry, what?
But a Beinoni does not sin.
Correct.
But Esau is the sinner.
He sins here.
Later in life he sins. He doesn't sin in the womb. In the womb he doesn't sin.
Well, not in the womb.
In the womb, don't in the womb. So yeah.
I believe that God sends each and every one of us here on a specific mission. And Esau's life is just as important as Jacob. if not
Exactly.
more.
Esau's life is just as important as Jacob, even more. And this is where we're going. It's a very, very important point to understand. You know, because it's normally we think that who's the model of a perfect Jew? Who is the model of piety? Think about this. Give me an example. Abraham, give me another one. Modern. Give me a modern example. Somebody today. Like the rabbi, yeah, okay. And now you think about who's like a sinful Jew. Oh, yeah, we don't have to have too many examples of that. It's gonna get personal, right?
Round table, right? We can just go around.
But what the Torah seems, what the Torah is going towards right now is that both are necessary ways of serving God. You know, it says that when Esau was preparing to receive the blessing from his father, from Isaac, later on in the parsha, it says Isaac tells him, "Go out and hunt something for me and make me mat'amim." Mat'amim means delicious foods, and then I will bless you. So Tanya points out, what's the significance of this menu that Isaac needs before he can bless? You know, like what is this? He has to get the buffet before he can give the blessing. What's going on? Tanya explains that the significance of this is that he asked for different kinds of foods. He wanted both sweet and sour. It's easy to develop. You don't need to develop an appetite for Coca-Cola. Any baby likes candies, but give him a fine wine, right? Give him a Pinot Noir.
Caviar.
I never tried caviar because caviar is not actually kosher.
Did I say caviar?
Yeah, you didn't mean caviar. You meant something else. You meant fake caviar because sturgeon is where caviar comes from. It's not kosher.
No, sturgeon is not kosher.
Sturgeon is not kosher.
What am I talking about?
Yeah, it's the fake caviar. You're talking about the imitation caviar. Yeah,
It's like
no, it's not actually kosher. The sturgeon is not actually a kosher fish. Yeah, it's like swordfish, correct? So yeah, let's not get stuck in the sturgeon here. So where I was, I'm sorry, I was going.
Sorry, Rabbi.
Why does he want the different kinds of foods? Because you don't need to develop a taste for candy, but you do need to develop a taste for Chardonnay, right? What Isaac wanted was to highlight the uniqueness of Esau, which is why he was blessing this son and not Jacob, who was the perfectly righteous one, because what he was trying to point out is that this one is able to turn wasabi into something delicious. I mean, who in his right mind would think that wasabi can taste good? Because you're mature. Because you have some Esau in you. Esau has the ability to transform, to take the darkness and to flip it into light, to take the negative and to turn it into a positive. See, Jacob doesn't know how to deal with adversity. Esau is stronger, like Arnie's pointing out. Esau is the one who's not afraid of the dark. He's able to encounter the darkness and to transform it into the light.
But he doesn't think he's going to live long.
Who doesn't think he's going to live long?
Esau. That's why.
You're getting into the details.
Oh.
Let's establish the foundation. Before, later on, when they negotiate, he was already out of the womb. Then what happened was he was fighting his desires, and he was starting to succumb. You see what happened. Right now, we're talking about in the embryonic stage. We're talking about where it's still in the state of perfection. In this state, both Jacob and Esau wanted, each of them wanted both worlds, because both of them were trying to serve God in the right way, in their own path. Jacob comes in and he says, the perfect Jew is an Abraham, is a Moses, is a Rebbe. I want to serve God in this world, and I want to serve God in the next world. But which world is primary to Jacob? The world to come. But of course he wants this world. This is the world, but you do mitzvahs. I do mitzvahs in this world so that I can merit the world to come. Comes Esau and he says, well, I want to serve God in the sour way. I want to take something which is counterintuitive and make it holy. I want to take the dark and sanctify it into light. I want to take sin and make it baal teshuvah. Profane and the mundane and make it into meaningful, right? So what he does is he says, I too want to serve God. And what's primary for Esau? This world. What's primary for Esau is this world, because this is the world where he encounters the challenges, right? Yes, he wants the world to come as well, but here in this world is where he's able to curb his appetite, where he's able to prove his path as the Beinoni. The Rebbe concludes by saying we are all descendants of Jacob. Well, sorry, all descendants of Isaac. Jacob and Esau are in our spiritual DNA. And therefore, all of us need to inherit the traits both of Jacob as well as of Esau. Now, you don't need to be a rocket scientist to figure out that you're going to be like Jacob. Fine. That's easy, to try to strive to be a perfect Jew, to study Torah and to do mitzvahs as you should. But there's another pathway which we also need to incorporate. We need to be skilled hunters. We need to be able to go out to the field, to kill something and bring it home, to take something negative and turn it into positive, take the sour and make it into a delicacy. We've got to be like Esau, somebody that's able to engage with the confusion, the chaos, the darkness, the anarchy of this world, and to be able to say, I'm not afraid of you. I can use you too in the service of God Almighty. You know, Danny Danon is the former ambassador of the United Nations, and I'm reading his book now, In the Lion's Den. He writes over there about how he gave a speech which was later called the biblical speech. He gets up there and in front of the whole United Nations after October 7th, puts the yarmulke on his head, brings out a Bible, and he says, the land is ours not because of you guys, not because you gave it to us in 1948. You had a vote in November 1947. No. That's not the reason what he said. He said the reason is because God is the master of the universe, is the creator of the universe, of heavens and earth. He chose us as the chosen people, and he swore to us in this Bible numerous times. The book that you guys many of you, respect and recognize, and this is our Torah. And this is God's manifesto. This is God's instruction manual to mankind. That's why the book is ours. When you're able to do that, and this is an Esau moment. Here's a guy who's facing the darkness of the United Nations. He's facing the corruption and the international scale bullying which takes place on global levels. And he says, we're not afraid of you guys. I'm going to shine a light. I'm putting the light in the place of darkness. I'm going to prove to you too that even you guys believe that that we own this land. When we can take that approach, we can take the food which you might think is not palatable and turn that too into a delicacy. When we adopt both approaches, when we can be a Jacob and an Esau, when our day begins with Torah study and prayer like we did today, and afterwards we leave the study hall, we leave the shul to encounter the world as a hunter. We now go out to hunt instead of being the hunted. We now go out with clarity and conviction, empowered by the one who sent us, by God Almighty, empowered by the connection of Jacob that we already have, to be able to overcome the negativity that we encounter, the apathy, the indifference, the mockery that we face, the scorn, and we're able to stand strong and to really be the Esau, to be the hunter, to kill the negativity, to bring it home. And this is what the Torah is telling us, as the Rebbe explains as to why it is that these two were struggling within the womb, because it's so critically important for us to understand that we weren't placed in this world to just merely have an easy ride. This world was meant to be a roller coaster with twists and turns and all sorts of terrifying drops. But when we can come in with the awareness that God is in control, He knows what He's doing, there's a designer to this mishigas, it's then that we're able to emerge safe and secure, like Esau, who in fact Isaac was wanted to bless, as we'll learn later. And that is the tale of two souls. Any questions?
Yes, Rabbi, when I think of Jacob and Esau, I think of a parent. So in a parent, you can get the good and the bad from them. And you learn from the good qualities of the parent and the bad qualities, instead of complaining and going to therapy, oh, my dad this, my mom that, learn what not to do.
Oh, this is very interesting. You know, it's a great example. I was in yeshiva with a group of boys, small group of boys. I was in different places like Australia and Leeds, and I noticed that it's getting a little claustrophobic at times, and not everybody was a good influence. So what I did is that I decided that God is good, and it must be that God didn't just dump me in this place with a bunch of nudniks for no reason, but in fact, there's something which I need to learn. There's a very important lesson I need to learn. So what did I decide to learn? When I was surrounded by nudniks, not everybody was a nudnik, of course. But if there's somebody in your life that's driving you nuts, then what you should do is you should learn what not to do, right? For example, if you have a narcissist in your life, if you have a narcissist, it's a very, very unpleasant experience. They suck you in with their charm and charisma, and then they hold you in like this death grip where they invalidate you and make you feel just worthless. So what do you do? Well, it's not an easy discussion, but at the very least, you can learn from them what not to do.
Yeah.
Make sure you don't become that narcissist to somebody else, because it's a very dangerous pattern of recidivism, where the narcissist victim can often become the abuser. You got to be careful. So at least learn what you should not become, and make sure you don't become the parent that you despised.
Also, Hamas is our best teacher. It's been our best teacher.
It's very painful, very, very painful to say that Hamas is our best teacher. But it wasn't us who said that. It was actually Edith Eger, who's a Holocaust survivor, became a renowned therapist, who said that Auschwitz was my greatest classroom.
What?
Auschwitz was my greatest classroom. I think that October 7th, a little too fresh for us to be able to make such sweeping statements.
It woke us up to our Judaism.
Yeah, look.
It also woke up
Yeah.
anti-Semitism.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
So Esau, I mean, I understand Yetzer Hara, Yetzer Tov. That I read a great book by Rabbi Aharon Feldman, a great tzaddik, called "The Juggler and the King."
I have the book.
So it says that Esau came from the field in his first foray of his act of immorality, and he actually committed murder. So you're telling us that there's good in Esau, and we should try to be like Esau.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, murder is
not
like
good.
a cardinal sin, and,
Yeah.
and I don't know. Are you disassociated with the Jewish people if you commit murder? And can you do tshuva for murder?
No matter where you roam, you can always come back home.
Okay.
It's never too late. We have a whole festival dedicated to tshuva, to return. Of course, Yom Kippur. But even for the second Passover, for the people that messed up the first time, they can fix it up the second time. Esau messed up when he came out of the womb. Today we were talking about how he was inside of the womb, right? He had to struggle. Listen, the Beinoni doesn't always win. Have you learned Tanya before?
I'm sorry.
Have you learned Tanya before?
No.
The Beinoni is the hero of the book of Tanya. It's the founding text of Chabad philosophy. It's a very, very important read. I'll tell you about it. So the Tanya tells us about the three different kinds of Jews: the Tzadik, the Rasha, and the Beinoni, the perfectly righteous, the wicked, and the one who's on vigil. The one who's on vigil can sometimes fall, and that's why he became a sinner. He fell. He became a murderer and a rapist and everything else that he did, right? But that was later in life. Today we were learning about the default setting. Today we were learning about the way it was meant to be, the factory settings, and how they were meant to be, and how we, in fact, are supposed to sublimate Esau. We're not supposed to leave Esau as a vicious wild hunter. We're supposed to bring him home. And let me tell you this: when you find when a Chabad rabbi goes out and he encounters a Jew covered in tattoos, steeped in drugs and all sorts of immorality and other sinful behavior, and he brings him home and he shows him the way and he invites him to Shabbos table and he tells him to make kiddush and he makes the blessings of Hamotzi and he starts blessing God and he lays tefillin and so on and so forth. This is the transformation of darkness to light, of sour to palatable, of rebellious to submissive, or to transparent, or to towing the line. This is what God wants from us. He doesn't just want us to be goody two-shoes. He wants us to be able to be the tough kid, the rambunctious kid that's able to find his way as well. And that is the tale of two souls.
The Juggler and the King.
Yeah, it's a great book. I have a signed copy.